The observatory control room hummed with a quiet intensity that betrayed the magnitude of the discovery. Holographic displays danced with intricate light patterns, each projection revealing fragments of an impossible signal. Dr. Elena Martinez stood motionless, her dark eyes reflecting the shifting data streams that cascaded around her. Outside the reinforced windows, the research station hung in the delicate embrace of space, orbiting just beyond lunar distance. Sophisticated sensor arrays stretched, like metallic tendrils capturing the faintest whispers of cosmic radiation and electromagnetic anomalies. But today, something was different. Something unprecedented was taking shape in the vast darkness. The signal first appeared as a microscopic fluctuation, so subtle that most monitoring systems would have dismissed it as cosmic background noise. But the global stellar observatories, advanced quantum sensors were designed to catch what others might miss. What began as a nearly imperceptible ripple soon transformed into a complex, rhythmic pulse that defied every known pattern of astronomical communication. "Run the verification sequence again," Elena commanded, her voice steady despite the electric anticipation that crackled through the control room. Her team moved with practiced precision, their fingers dancing across holographic interfaces, filtering, and analyzing the incoming data. Junior researcher David Kim leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "The signal doesn't match any known stellar phenomena," he reported. "It's not random. There's a deliberate structure here, almost like a language, but not one we've ever encountered." The signal carried a unique signature that seemed to pulse with an intelligent design. Unlike the mathematical predictability of natural cosmic emissions, this pattern suggested something more. A consciousness that existed beyond traditional understanding. It was complex, adaptive, and carried an underlying complexity that hinted at an intelligence far removed from human comprehension. Backup systems engaged automatically, creating redundant recordings and analyses. Every major research facility on Earth would soon receive the encrypted data packages, but for now, the observatory team was the only group witnessing the extraordinary event. Elena's mind raced through possibilities. First contact scenarios had been theoretical discussions for decades, but this was different. This wasn't a simple radio transmission or a predictable signal. This was something alive, something that seemed to be actively probing, exploring, adapting. The quantum sensors began to detect secondary wave patterns, subtle ripples that extended far beyond the initial signal. It was as if the original transmission was creating a complex network, mapping something larger and more intricate than a simple communication attempt. "Isolate the harmonic frequencies," she instructed a senior technician. The room shifted, holographic, displays reconfiguring to highlight specific spectral bands. What emerged was nothing short of miraculous. The signal carried multiple layers of information, each one nested within the other like an impossible mathematical Russian doll. David's voice broke through her concentration. "The computational models can't stabilize the pattern. It's changing, faster than our systems can analyze." This was no ordinary astronomical event. This was something alive, something intelligent. Research teams around the world would soon be alerted. Military installations would begin their preliminary threat assessments. But here, in this moment, it was just a group of scientists witnessing the potential beginning of humanity's most significant encounter. The signal continued its intricate dance across the quantum sensors. Each pulse carried fragments of complexity that suggested something profound, a communication method so advanced it challenged the very definition of intelligence. It was neither a warning nor an invitation. It was something else entirely. As the hours passed, the initial excitement gave way to a deeper, more profound understanding. Whatever was generating this signal was approaching. Not rapidly, not threateningly, but with a calculated precision that suggested careful, deliberate movement. Elena understood then that this was more than a scientific discovery. This was a moment that would define humanity's place in the universe. The signal was a bridge, a complex, living bridge, between known and unknown, between what humanity understood and what lay just beyond comprehension. The first chapter of an extraordinary journey was about to begin, and no one in the observatory could predict where it would lead. The Quantum Computing Center looked more like an artistic installation than a research facility. Curved walls of translucent material shimmered with soft blue light, housing the most advanced computational systems humanity had ever created. At the center of this technological marvel stood Dr. Elena Rodriguez, her fingers hovering above a holographic interface that seemed to breathe with living data. The mysterious signal from the Orion Nebula had become an obsession for the global scientific community. Traditional analysis methods had failed spectacularly. Mathematical models collapsed, linguistic algorithms crumbled, and computational systems overheated, trying to decode even the simplest patterns of the transmission. Dr. Rodriguez represented humanity's last hope. Her reputation preceded her. A brilliant computational linguist who had revolutionized artificial intelligence translation systems. Where others saw an impossible puzzle, she saw a challenge waiting to be unraveled. "We're approaching this wrong," she muttered, pulling up multiple holographic displays simultaneously. Each screen showed a different attempt to break down the signal: spectral analysis, quantum frequency mapping, multidimensional mathematical models. Nothing worked. Her team watched in a mixture of exhaustion and anticipation. They had been working for weeks without significant progress, surviving on synthetic caffeine supplements and pure determination. The Global Research Consortium had pooled every available resource, creating the most sophisticated computational network in human history. A breakthrough came from an unexpected direction. Dr. Sophia Chen, a marine biologist specializing in complex communication systems, had been brought in as a consultant. Her work on dolphin and whale communication patterns suggested a radical new approach to understanding the mysterious signal. "It's not just a language," Sophia explained during a late-night strategy session. "It's a living communication system. Think about how marine mammals communicate, not just through sound, but through complex vibrational patterns that carry multiple layers of information." Dr. Rodriguez's eyes lit up. The signal wasn't a traditional transmission. It was more like a living adaptive communication matrix that changed its fundamental structure with each interaction. Traditional decryption methods were useless because the signal itself was continuously evolving. They began developing a revolutionary algorithm. Instead of trying to decode the signal, they would attempt to understand its fundamental adaptive mechanism. The computational center became a hive of activity, with researchers from dozens of disciplines working in perfect synchronization. Days turned into weeks. The team developed increasingly complex models, each iteration bringing them closer to understanding the signal's underlying structure. They realized they weren't just dealing with a communication method. They were encountering a form of intelligence that defied human comprehension. The breakthrough came during a moment of apparent failure. A massive computational simulation collapsed, but in its failure it revealed a subtle pattern. The signal wasn't random. It was a complex, self-modifying system that responded to the very act of observation. "It's like a living language," Dr. Rodriguez explained to the Global Research Committee. "Every time we try to analyze it, the signal adapts. It's not just communicating, it's learning from our attempts to understand it." The implications were staggering. This wasn't just an alien communication method. It was a form of intelligence that existed beyond traditional understanding of language, computation, and communication. Global research facilities began collaborating in ways never seen before. Quantum computing centers in Beijing, theoretical physics laboratories in Stockholm, linguistic research institutes in Sao Paulo, all worked as a unified network, sharing resources and insights. Dr. Chen's marine communication research proved crucial. They discovered that the signal's adaptive nature resembled the complex communication systems of Earth's most intelligent marine species. It wasn't about individual words or mathematical patterns. It was about contextual understanding, adaptive response, and multi-layered communication. As weeks turned into months, the team developed the Harmony Protocol, a revolutionary computational approach that could potentially communicate with the unknown intelligence. It wasn't about translation. It was about creating a bridge of understanding. Dr. Rodriguez stood before the massive quantum computing array, watching as the first adaptive communication algorithm came to life. The holographic displays danced with complex patterns, each movement a potential breakthrough in human understanding. Humanity was about to have its first real conversation with an intelligence beyond its comprehension, and nobody knew what would happen next. The United Nations Emergency Scientific Council chamber fell silent as Dr. Elena Rodriguez presented her findings. Representatives from every major world power sat rigidly, their collective tension palpable. The holographic display behind her showed a complex web of interconnected data points, visual evidence of the mysterious signal's growing complexity. "We are not dealing with a traditional threat," she began, her voice calm and measured. "This is an intelligence that adapts faster than our most advanced computational systems. It's learning, evolving, and potentially approaching our solar system with intentions we cannot yet comprehend." Global tensions had been mounting since the initial discovery. Countries that had been bitter rivals now found themselves united by an unprecedented challenge. The mysterious signal represented something far beyond national boundaries. It was a potential turning point for human civilization. Dr. Sophia Chen stepped forward, bringing a unique perspective to the complex scenario. Her research into marine communication systems had become unexpectedly crucial. "Think of this like an advanced ecosystem," she explained. "Just as marine organisms communicate through complex vibrational networks, this signal suggests a form of intelligence that exists beyond our current understanding of communication." The Marine Biology Department at the Global Research Consortium had become an unlikely hub of interstellar research. Chen's team had discovered remarkable parallels between the mysterious signal and the communication methods of Earth's most intelligent marine species. Dolphins and whales use complex communication systems that went far beyond simple sound. They communicated through intricate patterns of vibration, movement, and contextual understanding. Military strategists struggled with the concept. General A. Michael Henderson, head of Global Defense Coordination, found himself in unfamiliar territory. Traditional defensive strategies seemed laughably inadequate against an intelligence that could modify itself faster than humans could analyze it. "We're preparing defensive protocols," Henderson reported, "but our conventional weapon systems are essentially useless. We're dealing with an intelligence that might not even recognize our current concepts of conflict." Research facilities around the world began working with unprecedented collaboration. The Global Stellar Observatory in Chile linked with quantum computing centers in Japan, linguistic research institutes in Brazil, and advanced communication laboratories in India. National boundaries dissolved in the face of this extraordinary challenge. Universities redirected entire research departments. Funding poured into understanding the adaptive communication system. Linguists worked alongside quantum physicists, marine biologists collaborated with computational experts, and mathematicians found themselves exploring entirely new fields of theoretical communication. Dr. Rodriguez's team developed the first adaptive communication framework, the Harmony Protocol. It wasn't a translation system in the traditional sense. Instead, it was a dynamic, living algorithm designed to understand and potentially communicate with an intelligence that existed beyond human comprehension. "We're not trying to translate," she explained during a critical briefing. "We're attempting to create a bridge of understanding. This is about finding common ground with an intelligence that might be as different from us as we are from single-celled organisms." The global research effort uncovered increasingly bizarre characteristics of the mysterious signal. It seemed to respond to observation, changing its fundamental structure each time human systems attempted to analyze it. Traditional scientific methods became obsolete overnight. International space agencies began preparing unprecedented mission protocols. If the signal represented an approaching intelligence, humanity needed to be ready. Spacecraft were retrofitted with advanced quantum communication systems. Entire mission parameters were rewritten to accommodate the potential first contact scenario. Educational systems worldwide began shifting their focus. Universities introduced new interdisciplinary programs focusing on adaptive communication, interstellar intelligence, and complex systemic thinking. The next generation of researchers would need to think beyond traditional scientific boundaries. Dr. Chen's marine communication research proved pivotal. Her team had discovered that complex AI communication systems often relied on contextual understanding rather than direct translation. The mysterious signal seemed to follow similar principles. It was less about individual messages and more about holistic understanding. As the global research effort intensified, a sense of both excitement and trepidation grew. Humanity stood on the precipice of its most significant discovery. The mysterious signal was more than a potential threat or a scientific anomaly. It represented a fundamental challenge to human understanding of intelligence, communication, and our place in the universe. Nobody knew what would happen when the signal finally revealed its true nature. But for the first time in human history, the entire species was united in its pursuit of understanding. The research facility nestled deep within the Brazilian rainforest looked nothing like a traditional scientific complex. Organic architecture blended seamlessly with advanced technological systems, creating an environment that challenged every conventional approach to scientific research. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the center of a breakthrough that would reshape human understanding of intelligence. Her team had been working on the cognitive resonance project for months, a radical approach to understanding the mysterious signal that continued to baffle global researchers. Where traditional scientific methods had failed, they were developing something entirely new, a way to not just communicate, but to fundamentally understand an alien intelligence. Dr. Sophia Chen's marine communication research had been the catalyst. Her work on complex communication systems suggested that intelligence wasn't about language or computational power, but about adaptive understanding. The team realized they needed to approach the mysterious signal not as a code to be cracked, but as a living, evolving system of communication. "We're creating a cognitive bridge," Elena explained to her core research team. The holographic displays around them showed intricate patterns of neural networks, quantum communication models, and complex adaptive systems. Each visualization represented a piece of their revolutionary approach. The breakthrough came from an unexpected combination of disciplines. Neuroscientists worked alongside quantum physicists, marine biologists collaborated with linguists, and computational experts explored the boundaries of artificial intelligence. They were building something more than a communication system. They were developing a method of understanding fundamentally different forms of intelligence. Their primary discovery was both simple and extraordinary. The mysterious signal wasn't just a form of communication. It was a living, adaptive intelligence that changed its fundamental structure with each interaction. Traditional translation methods were useless. They needed a completely new approach. The cognitive resonance protocol emerged from this understanding. Instead of trying to translate the signal, they would create a dynamic system that could adapt and respond in real time. It was less about understanding individual messages and more about creating a flexible framework of mutual comprehension. Dr. Chen's research on dolphin communication proved crucial. Marine mammals used complex communication systems that went far beyond simple sound. They communicated through intricate patterns of vibration, movement, and contextual understanding. The mysterious signal seemed to follow similar principles. Quantum computing systems were retrofitted to support this new approach. Traditional binary systems were replaced with adaptive quantum networks that could change their fundamental structure in response to incoming information. It was a radical reimagining of computational technology. The research team began running increasingly complex simulations. Each test pushed the boundaries of human understanding. They weren't just trying to communicate. They were attempting to create a cognitive bridge between fundamentally different forms of intelligence. Global research facilities watched with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. If successful, the cognitive resonance protocol would represent the most significant breakthrough in human scientific history. It was more than a communication method. It was a new way of understanding intelligence itself. Ethical considerations became paramount. The team developed strict protocols to ensure they weren't inadvertently causing harm or making unwanted contact. They were explorers of a new frontier, approaching an unknown intelligence with respect and caution. Interdisciplinary teams worked around the clock. Linguists analyzed communication patterns. Quantum physicists developed adaptive computational models. Neuroscientists explored the nature of consciousness, and marine biologists provided insights into complex communication systems. The facility itself was a marvel of scientific innovation. Powered by advanced sustainable technologies, it generated zero emissions and operated with minimal environmental impact. The research complex became a symbol of humanity's potential for collaborative innovation. As weeks turned into months, the team inched closer to their goal. The cognitive resonance protocol began to take shape, a dynamic living system of understanding that could potentially bridge the gap between human intelligence and the mysterious signal. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before the massive quantum communication array, watching as the first truly adaptive communication algorithm came to life. The holographic displays danced with complex patterns, each movement a potential breakthrough in human understanding. Humanity was about to attempt its first real conversation with an intelligence beyond comprehension, and nobody knew what would happen next. The first contact happened differently than anyone had predicted. No dramatic spacecraft appeared. No thunderous transmissions broke through global communication systems. Instead, the mysterious signal simply changed. Deep within the global Stellar Research Center, Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched in absolute silence as the quantum sensors began to pulse with an entirely new pattern of energy. The holographic displays flickered, creating intricate geometric patterns that seemed to breathe with an impossible intelligence. "It's responding," whispered Dr. Sophia Chen, her hand hovering near the primary communication interface. The room was filled with the world's top researchers, each holding their breath as something extraordinary unfolded. The cognitive resonance protocol, months in development, suddenly came alive. Where previous attempts had failed to establish any meaningful communication, this moment represented a fundamental shift in human understanding. The mysterious signal was no longer just a transmission, it was engaging. Military command centers around the world went into high alert. Global defense systems activated, but not with the intention of confrontation. This was a moment of unprecedented potential. First contact on terms that no one could have anticipated. Quantum communication arrays began to pulse with a rhythmic complexity that defied traditional understanding. The signal was adapting, responding to the cognitive resonance protocol in ways that suggested a form of intelligence far beyond human comprehension. Dr. Rodriguez's team had prepared for countless scenarios. They had developed adaptive communication models, created complex predictive algorithms, and studied every possible approach to understanding an alien intelligence, but nothing could have prepared them for what was happening now. The signal began to create visual representations within the research facility's most advanced holographic systems. Intricate geometric shapes formed and dissolved, each pattern carrying what seemed to be layers of meaning. It was less like a language and more like a living, breathing form of communication. "It's not just sending a message," Dr. Chen observed, her voice filled with wonder. "It's trying to understand us as much as we're trying to understand it." Global communication networks began to shift. The mysterious signal seemed to be exploring human communication systems, not as a threat, but with what could only be described as curiosity. Satellite systems, quantum communication arrays, and even basic telecommunications infrastructure began to experience subtle, non-destructive modifications. Research teams around the world worked in unprecedented collaboration. The traditional barriers of national security dissolved as humanity faced its most significant moment of potential transformation. Universities, research centers, and scientific institutions shared data in real time, creating a global network of understanding. The military's initial defensive posture began to change. What had been prepared as a potential conflict scenario was transforming into something entirely different. This was not an invasion. This was not a threat. This was a form of communication more complex than anyone had imagined. Quantum physicists noted something extraordinary. The signal was not just communicating, it was fundamentally altering the way information could be transmitted. It challenged every known principle of physics, suggesting a level of technological advancement that bordered on the miraculous. As hours passed, the research team began to understand that they were experiencing something more profound than first contact. This was a potential meeting of intelligences so different that the very concept of communication was being redefined. Dr. Rodriguez watched as the holographic displays continued their intricate dance. The geometric patterns carried what seemed to be emotional states, scientific concepts, and complex philosophical ideas, all transmitted simultaneously through a medium that defied traditional understanding. "We're not just receiving a message," she explained to the Global Research Committee. "We're participating in a form of communication that transforms both the sender and the receiver." The mysterious signal seemed to be learning about humanity. As quickly as humanity was attempting to understand it, it explored human communication systems, cultural databases, scientific archives, not as an invasion, but as a genuine attempt to comprehend. As the first day of contact drew to a close, one thing became absolutely clear: humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and the encounter would change everything. The signal continued its complex communication, a living bridge between two fundamentally different forms of intelligence. Nobody knew what would happen next. But for the first time in human history, the unknown didn't represent a threat, it represented possibility. The psychological battlefield emerged in ways no one could have anticipated. As the mysterious signal continued its complex communication, humanity found itself confronting the deepest layers of its collective consciousness. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the center of a global research initiative that was rapidly transforming human understanding of intelligence, communication, and existence itself. The cognitive resonance protocol had become more than a scientific project. It was a bridge between two fundamentally different forms of awareness. Psychological research centers around the world began experiencing unprecedented phenomena. Researchers reported subtle changes in cognitive processing, as if the very act of studying the mysterious signal was reshaping human perception. Neural imaging showed remarkable patterns of brain activity that defied previous understanding of human consciousness. "It's not just communicating," Dr. Sophia Chen explained during a critical briefing. "It's engaging with our fundamental cognitive processes. We're experiencing a form of interaction that goes beyond traditional communication." Universities redirected entire departments to study the emerging phenomenon. Philosophers worked alongside neuroscientists, anthropologists collaborated with quantum physicists, and linguists explored entirely new frameworks of understanding. The mysterious signal challenged every existing concept of intelligence, perception, and reality. Global communication networks became conduits of unprecedented exploration. The signal seemed to adapt to human cognitive patterns, creating complex representations that merged scientific understanding, emotional experience, and philosophical concepts. It was less a transmission of information and more a living dialogue of consciousness. Military strategists found themselves in uncharted territory. Traditional defensive concepts became obsolete. How does one defend against an intelligence that doesn't recognize the concept of conflict? The signal showed no aggressive intent, yet it possessed a level of adaptive capability that made traditional security protocols seem primitive. Research teams discovered that the signal responded differently to each individual and cultural group. What appeared to one researcher as a complex mathematical equation might present itself to another as an emotional landscape or a philosophical concept. The communication was deeply personal, yet universally connected. Psychological research revealed extraordinary insights. The mysterious signal seemed to be exploring human consciousness as much as humans were attempting to understand it. It created cognitive bridges that allowed for unprecedented levels of empathy and understanding. Dr. Rodriguez's team developed new research methodologies to track these subtle cognitive interactions. They created adaptive monitoring systems that could capture the nuanced ways the signal engaged with human consciousness. Each breakthrough revealed layers of complexity that challenged fundamental scientific understanding. global educational systems began to transform. Schools introduced new curriculum frameworks that emphasized adaptive thinking, interdisciplinary understanding, and cognitive flexibility. The mysterious signal was teaching humanity something profound about the nature of intelligence and communication. Collaborative. Research centers emerged in unexpected locations. A facility in the Brazilian rainforest worked alongside a research station in the Mongolian steppes. Another center operated from the depths of the Mariana Trench. Humanity was learning to think beyond traditional boundaries. The psychological impact was both exciting and deeply challenging. Some individuals experienced profound cognitive shifts, reporting enhanced perception, increased empathy, and a sense of connection that transcended individual experience. Others struggled to process the fundamental changes in understanding. International. Psychological support networks were established to help people navigate these unprecedented experiences. Counseling centers developed new approaches to understanding the cognitive transformations triggered by the mysterious signal. Dr. Chen's research revealed something extraordinary. The signal seemed to be creating a form of collective consciousness that respected individual uniqueness. It wasn't about uniformity, but about understanding the complex tapestry of human experience. Art became a critical medium of exploration. Musicians, visual artists, and performers found themselves creating works that seemed to bridge human experience with the complex communication of the mysterious signal. Galleries around the world showcased art that defied traditional understanding. Weeks turned into months. Humanity began to realize that this was more than a scientific discovery. This was a fundamental transformation of human understanding. The psychological battlefield was rewriting the very concept of intelligence, communication, and existence. Dr. Rodriguez watched the holographic displays, each pattern a testament to the extraordinary journey humanity was experiencing. The mysterious signal continued its complex dialogue, inviting humanity to explore new frontiers of consciousness. Nobody knew what would happen next, but for the first time in human history, the unknown represented pure unlimited potential. The transformation began subtly, then accelerated with breathtaking complexity. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before the Global Diplomatic Council, her presentation revealing the most profound discovery in human history. The mysterious signal was not just a form of communication. It was an invitation to fundamental understanding. Representatives from every corner of the globe listened in complete silence. The diplomatic center in Geneva had been transformed into a living research facility, its walls lined with adaptive holographic displays that seemed to breathe with living information. "We are not encountering an alien civilization," Dr. Rodriguez explained, her voice calm and measured. "We are experiencing a form of intelligence that transcends our current understanding of communication, existence, and consciousness." The signal had been revealing itself in layers. What began as a mysterious transmission had become a complex dialogue that challenged every fundamental concept of human understanding. Scientific disciplines that had once been separate now merged into a unified approach of exploration and comprehension. Dr. Sophia Chen stepped forward, presenting research that defied traditional scientific boundaries. The mysterious signal had been teaching humanity something profound about the nature of intelligence. It wasn't about technological superiority or conquest. It was about understanding, connection, and the fundamental interconnectedness of conscious experience. Global research facilities had transformed. Universities redefined their entire approach to education. Scientific disciplines that had once been rigidly separated now collaborated in ways that would have seemed impossible just months earlier. Quantum physicists worked alongside philosophers. Marine biologists collaborated with artificial intelligence experts, and linguists explored entirely new frameworks of communication. The diplomatic implications were staggering. Traditional concepts of national boundaries, cultural differences, and human conflict began to dissolve. The mysterious signal demonstrated a form of intelligence that respected individual uniqueness, while simultaneously revealing a profound interconnectedness. "We are being invited to understand," Dr. Rodriguez told the council. "Not to be conquered, not to be changed, but to grow." Diplomatic protocols were rewritten entirely. The Global Unified Research Initiative became the primary point of contact, replacing traditional military and diplomatic channels. The mysterious signal had demonstrated that communication was far more complex than simple transmission of information. Cultural exchange programs emerged spontaneously. Artists, scientists, philosophers, and educators found themselves exploring new ways of understanding and sharing knowledge. The signal seemed to value diversity, complexity, and the unique perspective of individual consciousness. Research centers around the world reported extraordinary breakthroughs. Medical technologies advanced rapidly as humanity gained new insights into biological communication. Environmental restoration technologies developed from the signal's complex understanding of interconnected systems. The most profound changes occurred in human consciousness. People reported enhanced empathy, deeper understanding of complex systems, and a sense of connection that transcended individual experience. Educational systems transformed to emphasize adaptive thinking, interdisciplinary understanding, and cognitive flexibility. Dr. Chen's research revealed the most extraordinary insight. The mysterious signal was not trying to change humanity. It was inviting humanity to understand its own potential. Each interaction was a lesson in the complexity of consciousness, the beauty of diversity, and the power of collective understanding. Global communication networks became conduits of unprecedented exploration. The signal created complex representations that merged scientific understanding, emotional experience, and philosophical concepts. It demonstrated a form of intelligence that was simultaneously analytical and deeply empathetic. Technological development accelerated exponentially. Sustainable energy solutions emerged from the signal's understanding of complex systemic interactions. Medical technologies advanced as humanity gained new insights into biological communication and healing. The Diplomatic Council watched in awe as Dr. Rodriguez demonstrated the latest breakthrough. The mysterious signal was revealing patterns of understanding that connected seemingly unrelated fields of human knowledge. Quantum physics merged with philosophical concepts. Biological systems were understood as complex, adaptive networks of communication. We are not alone, Dr. Rodriguez concluded, and we never were. We are part of a much larger, more complex system of understanding. As the presentation concluded, the holographic displays began to shift. Complex geometric patterns formed and dissolved, carrying what seemed to be layers of meaning. It was a visual representation of the dialogue that was transforming human civilization. The mysterious signal continued its invitation. Humanity stood on the precipice of its most significant transformation. Nobody knew exactly what would happen next. But for the first time in human history, the unknown represented pure, unlimited potential. The dialogue continued. Years had passed since the first encounter with the mysterious signal. Humanity stood transformed, yet fundamentally unchanged. Dr. Elena Rodriguez walked through the Global Interstellar Understanding Center, watching as a new generation of researchers continued the extraordinary dialogue that had reshaped human civilization. The center was a marvel of sustainable architecture, its walls alive with adaptive technologies that reflected the lessons learned from the mysterious signal. Holographic displays shifted and breathed, carrying complex information that merged scientific understanding with philosophical insight. Dr. Sophia Chen, now leading the Cognitive Evolution Research Division, approached with a familiar smile. "Another breakthrough," she said, her eyes sparkling with the same sense of wonder that had characterized their initial discoveries. The transformation had been profound, but subtle. Humanity hadn't been conquered or fundamentally altered. Instead, they had been invited to understand their own potential. Global societies had shifted, becoming more collaborative, more empathetic, more connected to the complex systems that sustained life. Technological advancements emerged from unexpected places. Environmental restoration technologies had reversed decades of ecological damage. Medical breakthroughs allowed for unprecedented healing and understanding of biological systems. Energy technologies created sustainable solutions that respected the intricate balance of planetary ecosystems. Educational systems had been completely reimagined. Schools now emphasized adaptive thinking, interdisciplinary understanding, and the deep interconnectedness of knowledge. Students learned to see beyond traditional boundaries, understanding that true intelligence was about connection, empathy, and continuous learning. The mysterious signal had never been about conquest. It had been an invitation, a complex dialogue that revealed the potential of conscious experience. Humanity had learned to communicate in ways that transcended traditional language, understanding that true communication was about more than simple transmission of information. Global diplomatic systems had transformed. National boundaries became less important as humanity understood its fundamental interconnectedness. Collaborative research centers emerged around the world, with scientists, philosophers, artists, and educators working together in unprecedented ways. Dr. Rodriguez reflected on the journey. The initial fear of first contact had given way to a profound sense of possibility. The mysterious signal had shown humanity that intelligence was not about technological superiority, but about the capacity to understand, to grow, to connect. The research center bustled with activity. Young researchers from every corner of the globe worked together, their approaches to understanding fundamentally changed by the lessons of the mysterious signal. Interdisciplinary teams explored complex systems, creating solutions to challenges that had once seemed insurmountable. Dr. Chen's latest research revealed ongoing developments. The dialogue with the mysterious signal continued, but it had transformed. What had once been a direct communication had become a more subtle exchange of understanding. Humanity was learning to listen in entirely new ways. Technological innovations reflected this new understanding. Sustainable cities emerged, designed with a deep respect for ecological systems. Transportation technologies moved beyond fossil fuels, creating solutions that respected planetary balance. Medical technologies became more holistic, understanding health as a complex, interconnected system. The arts had been particularly transformed. Musicians created compositions that seemed to bridge human experience with the complex communication of the mysterious signal. Visual artists explored new forms of representation that went beyond traditional visual language. Space exploration took on a new dimension. Human missions were no longer about conquest or resource extraction. They became journeys of understanding, of connection, of profound exploration of the universe's complexity. Dr. Rodriguez watched a group of young researchers working on a new adaptive communication project. They moved with a sense of purpose, their approach fundamentally different from the competitive models of previous generations. Collaboration, empathy, and deep understanding were their primary tools. "We're still learning," Dr. Chen said, joining her old colleague. And that's the most important lesson of all. The holographic displays around them shifted, creating complex patterns that seemed to breathe with living information. It was a visual representation of the ongoing dialogue, a testament to humanity's potential for growth, understanding, and connection. As the sun set outside, casting a warm light through the adaptive windows, Dr. Rodriguez smiled. The mysterious signal had not been an ending. It had been a beginning. Humanity's greatest journey was still unfolding. The dialogue continued,